Hello, my name is Will, and this is Tool Head to Head, Episode 7, and today we are going to be talking about cordless versus corded drills again, but this time we'll be referring to some of the cheaper, lower-end versions of these tools. Today we're going to be doing 3 tests, the first one being our standard, take a look at it and see what features it has test, and then we will move on to the physical tests, which I will talk about later. But first we're going to talk about the individual characteristics of these drills. Now, you've seen this before. This is the Drill Master hammer drill. This was featured in, I believe, my second video, in which I compared all of my cordless drills. This particular cordless drill stood above the others in the fashion that it was cheap, but it still had a hammer function. But other than that, it was complete junk. This tool has 2 settings for its transmission. It has its hammer mode, and it has, it has 15 clutch settings. That is pretty good. Let's see if any of those work. Yes, the clutch settings work. That is good to know. Does the transmission work? First, second, it works. The selector is functional, and it has a solid middle that is easy to reach. Variable speed trigger. Yep, it has a variable speed trigger. It has a 18-volt NiCad battery. This battery is absolutely terrible. It has very little run time, and it is extremely difficult to insert and remove. But other than that, this tool is fairly well constructed and relatively easy to use. Not so with this. This is a first on Tool Head to Head. This is a Craftsman corded drill I found in the parts bin, I suppose you could say. And when I found it, it had this bit in it. So that may give you an idea of what one of our tests is going to be. I didn't know that anybody had ever used a corded drill to put in screws, but I suppose they did, and I will be testing that out today. Oh, have a listen to that. Doesn't that just sound absolutely awful? This tool has a plastic shell. It feels very crappy. It has, I think that's supposed to be the forward and reverse selector. That's no good at all. Oh, it just got stuck. I don't even know if that works or not. I do believe this has a variable speed trigger. I guess that feels pretty good. And it has this little device here that allows you to lock the trigger. Yes. There we go. And it disengages. That's nice. It has a keyed chuck, which means there's a key on the end of this, and that should allow me to remove this bit I've inserted. This chuck is actually not that bad. It's a 3/8, which is not good, but it's actually pretty tight. Let's see. That key is a little shimmed off, but other than that, that's actually pretty good. The one thing I noticed is this was definitely beat up because, as you can see, it is just absolutely full of dirt. There's dirt everywhere, and if you listen, oh, that sounds absolutely awful. I can't even imagine what this thing is going to sound like in the tests. So now we're going to move on to the active tests, in which I will test their performance. So for this first test, we're going to be starting out with the Drill Master. We are going to be installing 10 1 5/8 inch screws into this piece of chipboard, which has been applied to I think that's a 2x6 under there. I don't know. It's wood on wood, and it's being installed. So we're going to see how quickly it can do it. Then we're going to test the Craftsman, and we're going to see how quickly that one can do it. Time starting now. not bad. Most of those screws aren't quite flush, but I had no trouble putting them in. As soon as they encountered resistance, it stopped. Yes, this drill does not have enough torque to seat them flush. Let's see if I put it in first gear if it does. Yes, in first gear it can no problem seat the screws flush, but that's pretty good. That's pretty quick. I know that there's time me bringing the screws from the box to material, but I will try to factor for that as best as I can. Now we're going to try the same test with the Craftsman. So now that we have the Craftsman out, you can listen to what it actually sounds like. Ugh, it sounds absolutely awful. Time starting now. So that was actually really impressive. It sunk them all right in. I think it actually did it a little quicker. The sound is still really, really bad. But other than that, it was fairly functional, and it managed to get all of the screws in there. And I'll check in post. I'll put the time up, but I believe it was actually quicker. The one thing to note when putting in screws with this is that it has no clutch. So if I'm putting screws in with the Drill Master and I want them put to a certain torque, all I have to do is set the clutch and the drill will automatically stop. Now obviously that's not flush. This drill does not have enough power to seat flush, but that is a useful feature, especially when installing smaller and thinner screws. Just to prove a point, we're going to also be testing a purpose-built screw driving machine. This is also a cheap device, so it will show, if you purchased one of these for your minor home renovation, is it worth it to also go for one of these? So we're going to see how fast this can drive the 10 screws. None of those are flush at all. I'm sure if I go on one of these a little longer. Yeah, if I go on one of them a little longer, it does in fact seat flush, but this is not worth it. This tool for 20 bucks might actually be worth your money, but the impact driver is not worth your $20. Just as a final comparison, let's see how the ultimate purpose-built tool can sink one of these babies in. Perfect. Did you see how quick that was? It just went straight in there, sunk right in. That is absolutely perfect. I will be using my DeWalt impact driver to put in screws. Welcome to our second test. In this test, we will be drilling 5 5/8 holes with a 5/8 spade bit. If you recall from the previous tests, the Drill Master was unable to handle a 1-inch spade bit. So I stepped it down to a 5/8. I believe it will be able to handle this 5/8 bit, but if it's not, I will probably move down to a smaller bit, because if this can't handle it, I don't think the corded one will either. So we're going to do 5 on time. You kidding me? That's unbelievable. Alright, let's try speed 1 and see if we can get any luck with that. Well, it did it in speed 1. It did it very slowly, but it drilled those 5 holes in there. Now we've got the 5/8 and spade bit inside of the Craftsman corded drill, and we're going to see if it can do those 5 holes any quicker. I think it will, because this has a middle speed. This has no speeds. So this is set at 1200 RPM, whereas the Drill Master is set at either 1600 or 500 RPM. I believe the middle ground in this RPM will give it the perfect combination of power and torque. Wow, that was much quicker. I'm going to be honest with you guys, this particular corded drill is much better than some of the other corded drills I've tested. I'm being honest. That really went through there a lot quicker than the Drill Master was able to. That's quite impressive. Now, as you will notice, this particular spade bit has a, I'm going to say, I don't know, a nib? I don't know what the term for that is. But it has a 6-sided bit, which allows me to insert it into the impact driver. Now, impact drivers are not designed, let's see, that doesn't want to stay in there. There it goes. Impact drivers are not designed to drill holes. They're designed to shoot screws in. However, because of this, it allows it to hold this particular bit. So I've decided to see whether or not it will be capable of drilling a hole, and possibly whether it will beat the drill at its own game, considering that the drill beat it at its own game. Nope, that's going to take absolutely forever. But don't take that as an impact driver not being able to drill a hole, because here I have a proper impact driver. Let's watch a proper impact driver drive a proper hole. Yeah, that was a lot quicker. So the way I see it, the corded drill was the winner of this test. In terms of cheap junk, you want a corded drill. Despite the fact that the cordless drill has multiple speeds and a clutch, it is still significantly less powerful for your money than this is going to be. The thing that particularly amazed me about this was its abilities in shooting down screws. I didn't even think for 1 minute I would ever be installing screws with a corded drill, and I still don't think I ever will, but I was impressed by how much better it was over the cordless drill. So if you are looking to do a small project and you do not have access to a drill, I would recommend purchasing one that is corded, probably from a thrift store or something like this. You could probably pick a model up like this for under $10, whereas something like this might run you over $20.